Syntax, the study of sentence structure and word order. Introduction. Syntax is the branch of linguistics concerned with the way words are arranged and combined to form phrases, clauses, and complete sentences. The word syntax comes from the Greek word syntaxis, meaning arrangement or putting together. In language, words do not simply appear next to one another randomly. They are organized according to patterns and grammatical principles that allow speakers and listeners to understand relationships between ideas. Syntax therefore provides the structural framework that makes meaningful communication possible. When people communicate, they usually do much more than select individual words. They must decide how those words should be organized, which words belong together, what role each word plays, and how different parts of a sentence relate to one another. For example, the words "the child opened the door" form a meaningful and grammatically organized sentence because the words occur in structure that English speakers recognize. If the same words are rearranged as door, the open child, the individual words are still recognizable. But the sentence no longer follows ordinary English syntactic patterns. Syntax explains why the first arrangement works and why the second does not. Syntax is therefore essential to understanding how language works. It examines such questions as how subjects and predicates are formed, how nouns combine with adjectives, and determines how verbs relate to their subjects and objects, how clauses are connected, how questions are constructed, how sentences can be transformed, and how word order contributes to meaning. Although syntax is closely connected with vocabulary and meaning, it focuses primarily on structure and grammatical relationships. Why is syntax? Syntax can be defined as the study of the rule, principle, and patterns that determine how words are combined in larger grammatical units such as phrases, clauses, and sentences. A sentence is not merely a collection of words, it has an internal organization. Consider the sentence: the young researcher carefully examined the ancient manuscript. This sentence contains several structural relationships. The words "the young researcher" form a noun phrase functioning as the subject. The words "carefully examine the ancient manuscript" form the predicate. Within the predicate, examine is the verb while the ancient manuscript is the object. The adverb carefully modifies the verb and describes how the examination was performed. A syntactic analysis may therefore ask, what is the subject of the sentence? What is the main verb? What is the object? Which words form a phrase? Which phrase form clause? How are clauses connected? What word order does the language normally use? How does changing word order uh, affect grammar or meaning? Why grammatical relationship exists between different parts of the sentence. Syntax provide answers to these questions. Syntax and word order. Syntax and word order. One of the most visible aspects of syntax is word order. Language have different conversions concerning the order which subject, verbs, object, modifiers, and other elements appear. The student read the book. Subject, the student. Read, the verb. The book, object. Another example is the scientist discovered the problem. Here, the scientist is the subject, discovered is the verb, the problem is the object. Changing the order can change the grammatical structure. The problem discovered the scientist. The sentence is grammatically possible, but its meaning is very different because the noun phrase "the problem" has become the subject and the scientist has become the object. Other language may use different dominant word orders. Some languages commonly use subject object verb patterns, while others may use verb subject object patterns. Some language permit considerable flexibility in word order because grammatical relationships are indicated through other mechanisms such as case making. This demonstrates an important principle. Syntax is the language specific. There is no single order system shared identically by a human languages. 3. Word phrases, clause, and sentences. Syntax operate at several levels of organizations. Words are combined to form phrases. Phrases combine to form clauses, and clauses can combine to form larger sentences. Words Words are the basic lexical elements from which larger structures are constructed. Examples include Teacher, beautiful, run, quickly, and book. However, syntax is primarily interested in what happens when these words are combined. Phrases. A phrase is a group of words that function as a unit within a sentence. Examples include the old house, very quickly, and the garden has been working extremely interesting. In the old house collapse, the words the old house function together as a noun phrase. Clauses. A clause normally contains a subject predicate relationship and may be either independent or dependent. For example, the rain stopped. This is an independent clause because it can function as a complete sentence in when the rain stopped, the children went outside. Um, we have a lot to speak about the subjects, word phrase, and clause and sentences, phrases, clauses, sentences, constituents, and syntactic units. A central concept in syntax is the idea of constituent. A constituent is a group of words that behaves a single structure unit in a sentence. The intelligent young scientist solved the difficult problem. The phrase "the intelligent young scientist" is constituent, so it is difficult. So is the difficult problem. On way linguistic identify constituents is through grammatical tests such as substitution. For example, the intelligent young scientist solved the difficult problem. Um, so it goes on. We have preposition phrases in the room under the table after the meeting with great enthusiasm. We have subject, predicate, object, and complement. Subject, the scientist conducted the experiment. Predicate, the scientist conducted the experiment carefully. Um, Object, the scientist examined the sample. Complement, she became a doctor. Um, a doctor is a complement for became. Sentence patterns, subject plus verb, birds fly, subject plus verb plus object, the child opened the window, subject plus linking verb plus complement, the sky became dark, subject plus verb plus indirect object plus direct object, the teacher gave the student a book, subject plus verb plus object plus complement, they painted the door red, the child slept but gave commonly, the teacher gave the student a book. Grammatically, the boy is reading a book. Boy, the book a reading is does not conform to ordinary English syntax. Um, Syntax meaning the dog chased the cat. Only Sarah invited John. Another example, and Sarah invited John. Syntax and morphology. The boy walks. The boys walk. Syntax and moral. Syntax. The student is ready. The students are ready. Syntax complexity. The researcher arrived and the experiment began. The researcher said that the experiment had begun. The researcher who conducted the experiment arrived. Coordination. We use coordination like and, but, or yet, or so. The researcher worked and the assistant recorded the result. She wanted tea or coffee. The experiment was difficult but successful. Then we have subordination. Although the experiment was difficult, the researcher continued. The clause, although the experiment was difficult, is subordinate to the main clause. Time, reason, condition, contrast, purpose, concession, relative information, reported content. These are the subordinate clause may express. For example, when the sun rises, the city becomes active. Because the machine failed, the experiment was postponed. If the temperature changes, the reaction may accelerate. We have questions and negotiations. She is working. Is she working? She is working. She is not working. Active and passive. The scientist conducted the experiment. The experiment was conducted by the scientist. Ambiguity syntax. I saw the man with the telescope. Word order and information. The sentence, the researcher as the grammatical subject, the missing document as the object. The missing document was found by the researcher. Syntax across languages. Different language organize sentence in different way. English generally has relatively fixed word order compared with many languages because word position plays an important role in indicating grammatical relationship. Other language may allow more flexible word Order because grammatical case agreement or other morphological features provide additional information. For example, in language, in a language with extensive case making, changing the position of nouns may not necessarily change the grammatical roles as dramatically as it would in English. Studying different language allow linguists to distinguish between language-specific rules and border patterns of your language. Part of syntax investigates these differences and similarities. Syntax and linguistic theory. Syntax is also an important area of theoretical linguistics. Linguists have developed different theories to explain how humans construct and understand sentences. Some approaches focus on formal rules or hierarchical structures. Other emphasizes usage, cognition, and meaning discourse or patterns engaging from related language use. One influential tradition in generative syntax associated with the idea speakers possess an internal grammatical system capable of generating an unlimited number of sentences from a finite set of linguistic resources. The child opened the door, the child opened the window, the teacher opened the door, the young researcher opened the laboratory door, the young researcher carefully opened the laboratory door after the experiment. Then we have recursion. A particularly important property of syntax is recursion, which allows structure to embed within structure of the same related type. The researcher who interviewed the scientist who discovered medicine arrived. Syntax in language acquisition. The dog is running, the cat is running. Syntax and language processing. The teacher who spoke, the students smile. Um, Syntax in writing and speaking. I went to the laboratory yesterday and actually no, it was the day before yesterday and I met researchers. Syntax in writing and speaking. Why syntax matters? Syntax is important because it makes complex communication. Syntax in computational linguistics, machine translation, speech recognition, information extraction, text summarization, question answering, natural language generation, conversational artificial intelligence. For example, the company acquired the technology acquired the company. Syntax and grammar, the central principle of syntactic organization. Syntax explained the students read the book, follows recognizable English pattern. The book read the student, express a different relationship, and why a completely disordered sequence such as the student read the does not follow ordinary English syntax. The study of syntax extends far beyond identifying subjects and verbs. It encompasses phrase structure, constituents, word order, grammatical functions, coordination, subordination, question, negotiation, passive construction, ambiguity, recursion, language acquisition, language procession, cross-linguistic variation, and computational language analysis. It also interacts with morphology, semantics, phonology, pragmatics, psychology, and cognitive science. Ultimately, syntax reveals one of the fundamental principles of human language. Meaning depends not only on the words we choose, but also on the relationships we create among the words. Happy learning and enjoy. I'll see you all.